even where teachers and head teachers are good, concerned, caring, where pastoral care is superb, young people can fall victim to these disorders. I hope in some small way this debate today will have helped raise awareness and understanding in this place. And I sincerely thank all those present in the public gallery for attending today and colleagues for their contributions this afternoon.
I call Mr. George Howarth.
Mrs. Osborne, and it is a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship. Could I begin by congratulating the Honourable Lady on raising this issue, and in particular for the very comprehensive survey she made of some of the problems that mainly young people, although as she said not exclusively so, are experiencing. And also the clear way in which she presented the case, and I think she did a very, very good job. I think it's important to start, Mrs. Osborne, by saying, sending, if you like, a message from here today, and that is, quite naturally, human beings come in all shapes and sizes. There is no perfect body, there is no perfect shape. Each one of us is different. We're genetically predisposed to look a certain way. And it really is important that we say that as loud and as often as we can to try to counteract the loud noises that young people often experience from the media about what they should look like. And before I go on to the very specific area I want to cover, I think it might be worth giving an example I know, not a constituent, somebody I know through my own family friendships, of a young woman who now is in her 20s, has been studying violin since the age of 5, and was offered a contract to play at an international festival in, as it happened, the south of France. The contract, I mean, this is a very talented young woman who's a musician, very well trained. The contract specified what body size she should be, or should aim to be, by the time of the event. And I just think that says so much about the way we've gone with this issue. And I think it's outrageous to be, and I think, frankly, agents who get involved in those sorts of contracts should be ashamed of themselves. I do, however, Mrs. Osborne, want to speak about a particular sort of eating disorder that affects young people with type 1 diabetes. It's something that's informally known as diabulimia, but the medical profession would not recognise that title. And to be fair, it is not an accepted name. So insofar as I use the word diabulimia, I do so as a shorthand to describe a quite complex phenomenon. And I want to pay tribute to an organisation called Diabetics with Eating Disorders, dwed, and in particular Jacqueline Allen, who provided me with a lot of briefing to enable me to take part in this debate. Now, diabulimia is a condition, although, as I say, not officially recognised as such, that affects mainly, though not exclusively, young diabetics. I should emphasise that when we always need to be clear when we're talking about diabetes, we're talking about type 1 diabetes, which the condition, the predisposition for, people are born with nothing to do with lifestyle. It's you're born with something that's likely to trigger diabetes at some stage in your life, and too often we confuse the two, type 1 and type 2 diabetes, as being the same thing when they're absolutely not the same thing. So it's mainly type 1 diabetes, it is exclusively type 1 diabetes sufferers who are prone to it. And how it works, Mrs. Osborne, is that if the young diabetic doesn't take their insulin, then the blood sugar, the level of sugar or glucose in their blood increases. Now, that's medical science has known that for a long time. But what young people have discovered is that when that happens, the glucose can't be converted into energy. And in turn, the glucose that's being lost is taken away through the natural process of urinating. And as a consequence of that, the calories they need also go, they lose the calories altogether. This in turn, because they lose the calories, and through manipulating their insulin, can lead to rapid weight loss. And if you want to, and let's be honest about this, if you manipulate the intake of insulin, which they need to stay alive, then they can achieve rapid weight loss. And one of the points that needs to be made is, in the social media, that information is circulating all of the time. On Facebook, people are tweeting it. So young people who want to lose weight who are diabetics are learning from other people, young people who are diabetics, how to lose weight rapidly. Now, I will shortly move on to talk about what those consequences can be for those young people concerned. But first, however, I think it's important to give some context as regards to diabetes and the associated problems. Young female diabetic sufferers in the age range of 15 to 30 have a 9 times higher death rate than their non-diabetic counterparts. It's quite an alarming statistic, that. And according to a BBC report last year of the 26,000 avoidable deaths from diabetes, the highest increase is among young women in that age range, which kind of bears out the point that the Honourable Lady made. And again, according to the Joslin Diabetes Centre and to dwed, having type 1 diabetes increases the chance of developing an eating disorder by 2-fold. And 40% of those in that age range regularly manipulate or omit taking their insulin altogether, which of course they need to survive, but then they're doing so in order to lose weight. At first glance, from the perspective of young people who want to lose weight, this seems superficially like a way of using their condition as a means of easily losing weight. However, the problem with that is, for people with type 1 diabetes, that in the effect of deliberately increasing their blood sugar levels can have serious consequences, and as I've already stated, can lead to early death. In the long term, it can cause, as the Honourable Lady has already said, fertility problems, which is common with other eating disorders. For diabetics, though, it can result in loss of limbs, kidney damage, blindness, heart damage, and many other serious complications. There can also be serious short-term consequences. Once a type 1 diabetic stops taking sufficient insulin to balance their blood sugar levels, the body produces something known as ketones, which are highly acidic and dangerous, and above a certain point can lead to a condition called ketoacidosis, or DKA, which, if not quickly treated, is always fatal. The health system, however, is very poor at dealing with this problem because it is not officially diagnosable. And quite often, the reaction of health professionals is at the very best confused. Sufferers, and if it is confused, it can lead to them taking courses of action which can have very, very serious consequences, including death. Sufferers report that they have been told that diabulimia does not exist. Well, it doesn't exist as an official medical term. And as a consequence, they've been discharged. without any treatment taking place at all. In some cases, they've been designated as non-compliant. Because the health professional doesn't recognise what they're looking at, they assume there must be some problem with the lack of cooperation they're getting from the patient and simply discharge them, which can have dangerous consequences, as I'll illustrate in an example I'll give in just a moment. In other cases, they've been diagnosed as being anorexic or bulimic and then treated for a condition which they don't actually have. Often in those circumstances, again, with fatal consequences. Dwed report that sufferers have, in some cases, been treated by an eating disorder specialist who has no or little knowledge or understanding of diabetes, or alternatively by a diabetes specialist who has no or little understanding of eating disorders. I will, of course.
I really appreciate the Honourable Gentleman giving way, and I really welcome him raising the issue of diabulimia, which I knew absolutely nothing about prior to calling this debate. But I was contacted by a constituent of the Right Honourable Member for Brentwood, who informed me, and I perhaps wonder, given the Honourable Gentleman's knowledge of this, whether he was aware of this, that treatment for this joint condition is in fact incredibly rare, and they were making the point to me that they were only aware of one hospital in South London which specialised in the joint conditions. And could he confirm whether that's correct?
It is correct in that, and when I bring my remarks to a close and make some suggestions as to what we need to do in the future, that's a particular issue I intend to address. But the consequence of people being treated either by a diabetologist who doesn't understand eating disorders or an eating disorder specialist who doesn't understand diabetes is that they can be then signposted to an unsuitable service altogether, or unforgivably won't be taken at all seriously when they have a serious problem. One example I've been told about involved a young woman sufferer who was told that she was too heavy. That's not to say she was heavy, she was very light, but she didn't meet the criteria for what was light enough to be an eating disorder, and was consequently told she didn't qualify for any support. The advice she was given was that she needed to relax about food. Now, anybody who knows anything about diabetes knows that the relationship diabetics have with the carbohydrate intake is crucial to their well-being. And so to say to a diabetic, go away and get more relaxed about eating, is potentially to tell them, to put them in a position where their life could be threatened. Subsequently, the young woman concerned had to be admitted as an emergency case to hospital with ketoacidosis, which, had it not been treated quickly enough, would have been fatal. And that was somebody who'd presented themselves within the health system, looking for help, and was told to go away and get a better relationship with food. dwed have some aims which I hope can be addressed by ministers, and with Mrs. Osborne, I think I'll go through those at the moment. First of all, they want to establish the principle, which I strongly support, that no diabetic with an eating disorder should be misdiagnosed or told that there is nowhere to put you, which is what they are commonly told at the moment, which comes back to the point the Honourable Lady made in her intervention.